Lesson 2. Why teach financial literacy? It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. If you're looking to school to make you rich, then you're looking in the wrong place. The education system's primary objective is to train you on how to become a good employee, but it does a poor job of making you a good employer. Things like managing your own personal finances and building wealth aren't taught to you by the education system in its current state. You can only rely on yourself to use this knowledge and acquire assets that allow you to generate an income. The first pillar of financial literacy and escaping the rat race is understanding the difference between an asset and a liability. An asset puts money in my pocket. A liability takes money out of my pocket. Let's quickly look at the income statement. Your income statement is money going into your pocket. Expenses is money going out of your pocket. Things like rent, food, electricity, and clothing go here. An asset is something that allows its owner to generate an income. On the other hand, a liability generates expenditure. This is the cash flow of an asset. This is the cash flow of a liability. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and the middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. Cash flow patterns. Cash flow tells the story of how someone handles money. This is the cash flow of a poor person. They have a job, they get a salary, they use all their salary on expenses, and they usually live from paycheck to paycheck. This is the cash flow of the middle class. They have jobs, they get a salary, but most of their money is tied up in liabilities and expenses. Home loans, car debt, credit card debt, mortgage repayments, and taxes. They think that their home is an asset, but they wake up one day with a liability column full of mortgage debt and credit card debt. This is the cash flow of a rich person. The rich are always thinking of ways to grow their asset columns. Their main source of income is from assets that they have acquired over time. Your home is not an asset. By focusing on a home, you are building a liability rather than an asset. When it comes to houses, most people work all their lives paying for a home they might never own, incurring 30-year loans that they are tied to. You need to pay property tax, and the rates of these taxes are completely out of your control. You need to pay other home expenses, and the value of your home over time does not always go up. And most important of all, the biggest cost of a house are all the lost opportunities. If all your money is tied up in a house and going out through the expense column in mortgage payments, it's not being used to grow your asset column. Furthermore, think of all the other investment experience that you're missing out on when you only focus on local residential real estate. Here are some examples of real assets. An apartment, which generates monthly payments from a tenant, and the repayments allow you to repay the loan repayments on that property. A business that doesn't require you to be present within it.
Your call is very important to us. Please hold.
For poor dad, a home was an asset. For rich dad, a home was a liability. This is how poor dad's income statement looks. Take note of the inflated liabilities. And this is rich dad's income statement. Over time, he has grown his asset column. Most people fall into this trap all the time because they are financially illiterate. They don't understand the relationship and differences between the balance sheet and the income statement. Why people struggle. If you follow what the masses do, this is what your life will become. You have 3 people that you work for. You work for the company to get a salary. You're making the owner and the shareholders rich. If you have debt, then you work for the bank. Your mortgage and credit cards make the bank rich through your interest payments. And finally, you work for the government. The government takes a cut of your money before you have even seen it. And the harder you work, the more you pay in taxes. Take a calendar year. If you're a regular person, every dollar you earn from January 1st to March 16th goes straight to the government. That's 2.5 months of every year that you just give to the government. Compounded over 40 years, that's almost 6 years you work just to pay the taxman. The rich understand this, the masses don't. The main ways to get out of the rat race. Fully understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Focus all your efforts on obtaining assets that generate a cash flow. Keep your expenses and debts to the bare minimum. And finally, which leads us to the next lesson, mind your own business. Key lesson. Life is not about how much money you make. It is about how much money you keep and for how many generations. The key to achieving this resides in having financial literacy. Understand the difference between an asset and a liability. The rich build and acquire assets. The poor and the middle class acquire liabilities that they mistakenly think are assets.